So great to have you here today. I am super excited to introduce you to a good friend and food stylist based up in Ohio, Cheryl Lace. Before we get started, I just want to remind you it's always great if you can like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future interviews. I've got lots of people coming down the pike and I don't want you to miss out on anything awesome. Cheryl's a food stylist based out of Ohio, as I mentioned. Check out her links below. She's fabulous. She's a fun, awesome, amazing person, and I was so fortunate to get to work with her just before she moved out of Florida. So check her out. We've got some really great tips. Take a moment, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and where you're located.
Okay. I'm Cheryl Lace, and I'm a food stylist and a pastry chef. And I relocated to Ohio about 3 years ago. And for that is how I met you, working in Florida.
Yeah.
And my background is in advertising. I changed careers. This is my second career. I went to culinary school. I'm a detail person.
Yeah.
So when they interview you to go to culinary school, they're like, well, do you want to go culinary? Do you want to go pastry? And the test question is, if you decorated a cake and you put 100 roses on it and the last one was a flop, what would you do?
What's the answer?
Trash it and start all over again. So, or got me into culinary school.
So wait, so the answer to that is if the last rose on the cake is a flop, you start the whole cake over or just the last rose over?
No, the whole cake over. That's where my brain was at that point in my life. Now I do the rose, but that's many years ago. So.
Yeah. Well, so how did you kind of stumble into, I'm assuming stumble, but maybe you had it on your trajectory, but like, how did you find your career in food styling? And how did you
I have been a producer for many years at an agency, and then I went freelance, and I would get director's reels in. And the ones I would always go gaga over were the food ones. Yeah. And then I like to cook. I had every cookbook and culinary magazine you could have. It was a bad habit. And I was at a shoot once in Minneapolis, and it was a tire shoot. Goodyear was our biggest client.
Okay.
Round things, cakes, tires, this sort of thing. So my life is, consistent at least. There was a food stylist in the studio, and they were getting ready for a shoot for Baskin-Robbins. And she had to they were building the set with the, looked like a little store, and she had to make the 31 flavors. Just the discs, fake ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
For the top. And she had photos, and I have a science mind, which helps with pastry, but that did it, man. I was like, I have to do this. This is going to be my next career. So that's what happened.
So it was like the challenge of it or the detail of it, or?
I love both things. I love the challenge of trying to make something work. Yeah. In any circumstance, and to really think it through and do it as a team with the photographer and whomever else is on the client.
Yeah.
That's what I love, the creative challenge of it.
Yeah, me too. I always love a good challenge, and maybe not always all of the challenge all at once.
I agree.
But a good challenge can really make for an awesome day on set too. Like when you pull it off and it looks awesome and the client's happy. It's like,
absolutely. It's a wonderful feeling.
So tell me a little bit about like what your experience is like on set when you're working with a photographer. What does the team look like? What does the day kind of look like for you?
Sometimes I'm lucky to have an assistant. It depends how many shots we have. Usually it's the cameraman and myself. And usually there's extra crew people, be it camera op or lighting or other people. But it's primarily me and the photographer and the client and my assistant, if I have one, where we hash out what we need to do to make this happen. You know, we do that in pre-pro meetings. We do that up to the point of being on set. We're very flexible, at least the people I work with, you know, because changes come.
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah.
You know, maybe it doesn't look quite right, or maybe the angle isn't what you thought it was going to be. You just never know. And you have to be flexible. You have to be easygoing. You can't be a prima donna. And
It's true. It's true. The best people that I've worked with have all had a really cool, calm demeanor. And even if like inside they're like, on the outside, they're just like, it's cool. We got this, you know.
Game face. You got to put your game face on.
Yeah. Are there any like tools that you absolutely have to have with you on set that you like rely on day in and day out, like your everyday go-to?
It's going to sound really silly, but it's a chopstick.
You're not the only person who said chopsticks.
That's my favorite thing. I have all the other expected tools. You know, I have it, you know, the brushes, and there's certain things. I have my favorite brushes, my favorite tweezers, my favorite everything, my spray bottle. It depends on what we're shooting. 9 times out of 10, I'll need that chopstick. So
how do you use the chopstick? Because you're saying just one. You're not saying like you're going in there.
No.
So what do you use it with?
I'll use it to move stuff around just ever so slightly. I feel like I have more control with it. If I need to grab something, then obviously I go to tweezers or whatever.
Right. So obviously you've got the background in pastry. So that's maybe your like jam, but just out of curiosity, I was gonna say, so like your favorite thing, like you are known for pastry, and it's like, any sort of special tips on pastry then too, because you've got a unique perspective.
I have done a lot of work with Nestle, and my aesthetic is more clean, wholesome, all-American. It's not to say it doesn't have some fun things going along with it, but they like that concise, clean look. Of course, you always do things in post to your photos. I started out in this industry on film, so I come from a background of get it right in the camera. So we can add a couple chocolate chips in post if we want, but I really strive to have it in camera correct. The tips I would have is the slicing. You need a clean knife, and you're going to need a lot of whatever it is you're doing, because you might have to do it multiple times.
Yeah. So if you're slicing a cake, how many cakes would you want to have? You know, if you need the slice, so you can go through the whole cake, let's say, and you're not showing the cake with a slice removed, because I assume that's even harder.
Oh yeah. If it's a cake with a slice coming out of it, oh Lord, I'd probably have 5 or 6 cakes. I don't know. But if it's just one, obviously you can get by with a couple cakes.
Speaking of like clients and changes, because I assume this happens too, because it happens to me, where like you get there on set and you've all agreed, and let's just say for this example that it's going to be a yellow cake with chocolate icing, and at the last minute they change the icing. Like, does that happen? And if it does, what do you do? I mean, have you already made the cake before they change their mind? Because sometimes they see it on set and they'll go, or it's a topping they want changed on the cake or something. Like,
I usually have backups. That's very extreme. Usually it's a very specific product that I'm shooting. So
because it's like for packaging or something, they're not going to change what.
Chances of it changing are, I haven't specifically run into that, but I've had it where it's like the toppings or what they want around it that changes. We always pull it off.
Yeah, it's your job to pull it off. I know I had a photo shoot years and years ago. We were doing like a barbecue setup. And so we had like grilled corn and barbecue chicken and like all kinds of stuff, beans, blah, 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 blah. And then they were like, you know what would look really good in this? Hamburgers. And I was like, oh, sure. Hamburgers. We don't have those. They're like, we'd really like hamburgers. Okay. And then you start to scramble and figure out, okay, how can we quickly pull together some hamburgers on the set that is starting to wither, because we also had, obviously we had a salad in there. So, Yeah. But it's like trying to like zig and zag the best you can. Like that is pretty massive, a big change. And I managed to pull it out because we weren't selling hamburgers. Like that wasn't the product. It was like this whole, you know, like what can you make with all these ingredients kind of thing. And so I actually had like a soy patty in my freezer, and I was like, just could have it sort of sneak out, and I could, you know, put a little bit of like dark soy sauce or the, you know, something on it to make it look grilled. I had some hamburger buns. I was like, I'm good. I got this. Okay. Didn't have to run to the store.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. I, you know, usually we'll start mumbling. They'll start to be a mumble, and then I'll say, you know, to the assistant,
yeah,
you run to the store.
Grab my keys. Yeah.
We usually manage it one way or another.
And it's always an adventure. I feel like every shoot you learn something new, or you have a new experience, and you come away with something unique to that experience.
That's what I like about styling is it's the same, but it's not. You know, you have your basic skills and things you do, but it's always different. So to me, that keeps the interest. It keeps me interested in it, and that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part about what I like about it too, because I've been guilty of, I went to school for art and I thought I was going to be an illustrator, but then I graduated and was like, oh, I got to make money. So I went into graphic design, but then I was like, oh, I hate sitting in an office all day behind a computer, exhibited as a painter, was like, I feel like I'm selling my soul. I'm done with that. Picked up the camera, like this weird sort of ping pong all over the place kind of path to where I am now. And because there's so much variety in it, it does keep my interest really well. That's a long story.
Well, that's why you make such great boards. You have that drawing background.
Oh yeah, well, it helps.
The stick figures, you know?
Yeah. Well, so is there a particular shoot or a moment or like a big success story that you're particularly proud of? Like some big challenge and you were able to like make it happen and it just felt like a monumental day?
Actually, I'm going to sound like a brown noser, but I loved how we made that Wayne Thabood thing happen.
Oh my God. That was fun. That was a good challenge.
Yeah, it was a big challenge. Always something stuck in my head. And you made it happen, and I made it happen. And to this day, I'm still getting compliments on that. So, you know. What's the next thing we want to do?
I know. When are you coming back down? No, that was a really good one because as the photographer, it was a great challenge to be like, okay, how are we going to put colored shadows in a food shoot and still make the food look good and pretty? And, you know, like that was genuinely fun. I still have that rainbow flatware I have not yet used.
Well, maybe that's our challenge.
There we go. Come up with some way to use
rainbow flatware.
Yeah, that was a really cool, a cool day on set, really fun and really awesome to see how you worked. Cause I got to see firsthand how you work with the cakes. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like if we had an issue, cause they were store-bought cakes too, that we were working with. And so like going in and fixing where the crumb and the icing met and everything, like there's a lot of detail work that happens that I think a lot of people wouldn't be aware of. So it's all still the same. It is the product, but it's like just trying to fix it as much as possible. So I didn't have as much work. Awesome.
Yep. See, now I think it's a misnomer in the production world, or maybe just the consumer world. Production people know better. They think it's all fake. I don't know how they think it's fake, but
it's not real cake. It's made out of styrofoam or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're always using the real product. The only time I've used fake is if I need to fill a glass up, you know, and nobody can see that.
What do you do? This is the longest way to ask this question.
Right.
If they want something like cherries, they're out of season. Can you get faux cherries? What do you know?
I will always try to order the real thing. And I have a couple connections in LA that I can order for the real thing. I have yet to have a budget where somebody can afford to buy fake.
Like real good fake.
Yeah, it's got to be real good fake. I've used fake from the craft store in the background.
Yeah.
It's not in focus. That's worked out well. And so I always keep an eye open when I'm in stores before Corona for that sort of thing and kind of make a mental note. I'm always going through, antique stores and sales and estate sales. And I find all that stuff very inspiring. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Just keep an eye out. I've found some okay faux fruit. And like you said, it cannot be front and center because it's a dead giveaway that there's like a hunk of plastic or something on set where it shouldn't be. Painful.
Last year, or maybe it was the year before, was the year of me having shoots where everybody wanted peaches.
Oh
But they
gosh.
weren't in season.
Yeah.
So it got a little sticky, and they were just starting to come into season. So we had to fake it like you'd have a really pretty exterior, and then I'd have to cut it and doctor it up a bit. We really had to rely on post.
Yeah. Well, any good tips? Because peaches for me are like terrifying. Because like if I've got to cut it open and show like a sliced peach with a pit, I don't even know. It's like hit or miss.
It's a tedious thing, and not all peaches are the same. So if you can buy more than one variety, it helps.
Oh yeah.
I always have beet juice with me. Beet juice is not it even works on meat. It's kind of a universal coloring thing. Obviously, you've got to get some citric acid going there, or if it lays on set too long, it's going to start discoloring. My biggest problem is making it look juicy. If it's dry, you know how you cut into those and they're dry, and a little bit of oil, a little bit of water. It's the hand, it's how you do it, or it will look like a greasy peach.
Right? Yeah, nobody wants a greasy peach. Well, so where do you find your inspiration? Because I know your ideas for shoots have been above and beyond anybody else that I've ever talked to. And it's always been like, oh my God, how can we make that work? That sounds awesome. Let's figure that out.
Oh, thank you. Inspiration's anywhere in my book. It could be in my kitchen. It could be in a cookbook. It could be when I'm on a walk. I love to go to art museums. I love to go to sales, like I said earlier, estate sales, antique stores, that sort of thing. And, of course, online. I could scroll pictures for days online. It's anywhere. It's really anywhere for me.
Yeah. Well, so what catches your eye? What speaks to you and says, oh, you know what, we can do a shoot around this, or this would be really cool if we did X? Because for me as a graphic designer, I might see somebody else's design and I'm not looking to copy their design, but I love how they treated the font, or maybe I love the color that they use. It could be anything from it, but I make my own thing from it. So like when you're looking at recipes and things like that, like what sorts of things catch your eye and inspire you in a photo?
I am very much like you in that. It might be the color. If I'm reading it, I might think, oh, these colors look nice together. Or, I'm, again, not out to copy anybody's work, but, oh, maybe I like the way the shine is on something on that dish, or how they drizzled it, or there's always something. It's a continual process. And you might not, you might go to do it and it don't work at all, but that's why you have test shoots.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and test shoots are really helpful. I don't think I've talked about that with anybody yet. We've talked mostly like, professional shoots and being on set with client, but keeping your skills sharp and trying new things and being able to experiment and make mistakes without the consequences. Test shoots are really helpful. How often do you get to do those?
Not as much as I'd like, especially now, but they're there periodically. I actually got hired by a studio once to do, they wanted to pitch local restaurants for the business. And that was a blast. We could do anything because we didn't have a client going, has to be this, has to be that, So we had a lot of free reign, and they got some clients out of it, and we all had fun. So
yeah. So the idea is show the best of the best. Like, this is what you could have if you hired us to do your shoot.
Yeah. It was genius. I mean, it was very clever. They were trying to build their food business, and it was a little investment, but
for sure.
Look what they got.
So like, I'm dying to know, and I don't know if you can share, but like, whatever happened with the soft serve ice cream?
It went south.
So it didn't end up happening, or? It
did not materialize. And then I want to say about February, when all this started to, it could have been a fun job. It may
Yeah.
still be a fun job. Never know.
Someday. Yeah. I know how many of us have jobs that are just sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
Like, when is this going to pass? I'm super curious to see what happens in the short term and the long term from this, as far as like what life is like on set. You know, what is it like in the studio, and how do we go about bringing people back together? You know, the stylists, the photographers, the techs, you know, when can we do that, and how do we do that? I don't know. I'm so curious, and I'm watching all the different states start to maybe reopen, and wondering, like, you know, all the food brands who are dying to get stuff done, and, you know, are looking for someone who can be like a jack of all trades, but then I mean, it's better if you can have a team. You're going to get a better result. And so wondering how many, you know, companies are looking to pounce on like Atlanta as they're talking about opening up. And, you know, as soon as New York decides it's okay to start doing things, I know they're very cautious. So that's.
Well, I know that, you know, just from my entire life, my careers, advertising and marketing is always what takes the cut in the budget first.
Yeah, first.
So we have a slightly different situation here now, where everybody's on social media. So, and they still have products, and they still have packaging, and they're still gonna, you know, open up any magazine. There's going to be something in there. I'm very curious, like you. I hope it rebounds for all of us.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's pretty wild right now. I know also, though, with social media, I mean, there's a push. I mean, there's must be pressure from all the brands, big and small, to keep producing content, or they sort of blink out. Especially now, you would think a brand who's not posting might be implying that they don't have a supply chain, and so that they can't get product to market. So if they're not showing, hey, we're out there, here's a recipe, try this with your pantry items, you know, they might be at a disadvantage. So it's sort of a high stress situation for them and for us. You know, like, we want to keep posting, we want to keep showing that we're available. And
you need some new product rollouts, probably, is what I would imagine. A client that I have in Brunswick, Georgia, seafood client, their market is more commercial establishments. So there's no restaurants open.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because even down here, Publix has started purchasing food that would have normally gone to restaurants, and then they're sending it off to food banks, because it was just being thrown out, which is unbelievable.
I saw that. It was very sad.
Yeah, like, good for Publix for stepping in, but like, how was this happening in the first place when we got cars lining up for food?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. Insane.
I'm glad they did that. And up here, I've noticed it's interesting how they're doing the farmers markets. I don't know down there. You know, we don't have a lot of farmers markets active in the winter, but there is some, and it's a lot of craftspeople and root vegetables, and they are taking your order at the beginning of the week, and then you drive through at the end of the week. And get it. And if you miss the cutoff, you miss the cutoff. So there's got to be, you know, very stringent rules in place. But
what sparked your original interest in food?
My mother couldn't cook.
Usually it's like, my mom was such a good cook and she inspired me.
No, I'm the opposite of that. I always love the stories that, you know, you go through and you read about food stylists and where they started with, like, oh, I grew up in a home full of food. No, my mother couldn't cook. And I figured that it wasn't that hard. I could figure it out, you know. So that actually inspired me. And then, of course, my grandmother, which is kind of the classic story. I was real little, and she would let me just play in her kitchen. I could, you know, stupid stuff, flour in a bowl with water and one of those hand mixer things messing around. And it was just little, I think it was a culmination of a lot of things, you know, going to a friend's house that, oh my God, your mother can cook, mine can't. So, yeah.
Yeah. But I can't say anything because my mom is watching this, I'm sure.
Mine isn't around, so she's watching it, but from another place.
My mom had her dishes that were very good, and then I will say, when she cooked for us, if she got a good response from us, that was dinner for like the rest of the week. So you have to be very careful about doling out this is delicious, Mom.
Yeah. Chicken tacos, chicken a la king, chicken pot pie.
I think you've just named a bunch of them.
Yeah, I was a 60s child, so we had pizza burgers and spaghetti and city chicken. I never figured out what city chicken was.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
I think it's a Midwest thing. It's pieces of pork on a stick. It's very weird, and it's breaded and fried, and it's horrible.
City chicken. That's a new one.
Yeah, look it up.
I will do that. So, do you remember your first paid gig when you first broke into food styling? And
yeah,
what was that like?
I worked at QVC.
No kidding.
I
Your first paid gig.
And I worked at QVC.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very glamorous.
Okay.
I was so excited. I was just out of culinary school, and I had someone on staff helping me to land jobs. And they all thought I was crazy in culinary school because they said, "Oh, so you want to have your own bakery?" Well, no, I want to style food. It was, "Oh, you can have a catering company." No, I want to style food. So she helped me get this job. I was so excited, drove over there, took all my stuff with me, ready to go. It was like for a segment with a guy that had a bunch of, I don't even know who it is anymore. I don't watch it. Barbecued food. It was prepared foods that were, had to make them look well. It wasn't like a high-end styling job, but it was great to start.
Sure.
I walked in their kitchen. Every dish, every spoon, every utensil was in the sink, on the counter. It ran for days it was like nothing I've ever seen. To this day, I've worked in restaurants. It's never been like that. So if I wanted something, I had to wash it.
Oh my goodness.
So it was quite a little learning experience there. I had a blast, it was fun, but wow, dishes.
Extra stress. Yeah. Well, so then at the end of your session there, did you have to clean up after yourself, or did you just say, "Well, I'll just leave it because that's how it was when I got here"?
Nah, that's not my skill set. That's not me. But that was all I did in between doing the food. It was dishes. It was wild.
That is crazy. That's like the worst part of the job, if you ask me. Like I get to the end of it, like if I end up doing styling and the photography on my own, and it's just me, at the end of the day, that's like the last thing I want to do. I've already had to clean up the studio, and like I've got everything started in post-processing in the computer. And the last thing I want to do is go in the kitchen, clean all the dishes. And not only that, but like my brushes and my tools and everything too. And it's just like the most disheartening part. You could have had a great day and you're just exhausted and you're just so grateful that you got through it and the client was happy. And now you still have like hours of work to clean up the kitchen.
Yep. There's always dishes. You just try to keep up with it,
Yeah. Do you feel like it's absolutely important to have that culinary school background? I'm sure it gives you a leg up, but how many, do you know of other stylists out there who don't have that background? And is it something that producers look for, or do they ask about?
The producers don't necessarily ask about that. They'll ask if you have experience working with said product.
Sure.
All the stylists that I've known, that I'm friends with, they all have some sort of either, it may not be a culinary degree, but maybe they worked in a restaurant or a family business kind of thing. I get hired for my baking and my pastry. I do savory. It's not to say I don't do savory, but if they need something piped on camera, on demand, I can deliver that. If anybody that's worked in a kitchen is going to know how something's going to behave, what you need to add to it to make it set, to make it slice, to make it, so there is an importance to that.
Yeah, I would think so too. And it gives you extra experience as well. Like you get experience on set and you come across a couple like humdingers every now and then. You're like, whew, we figured that out. But like having the background and already having to problem solve and figure out why things happen when you're baking them, like you understand the chemistry behind it at least too. So if something's going wrong, you know how to fix it, which I think is huge. Any advice that you would give to somebody who's considering a career in food styling or food photography?
Practice. Yeah.
That's
all you can do. that's how you learn, like we were just discussing. Trial and error over and over. That's it, man.
It's simple.
Yeah.
It just takes time. What's your favorite quarantine distraction?
Riding my horse.
Yeah, it's awesome that you have that you can get out and do that. I think being able to get outside of the house and
you can
nature.
safely social distance with your horse, you know.
Well, look, I've got to wrap it up because we are about to run out of time and I don't want you to get cut off. But this was awesome, and
Thanks.
I really appreciate you jumping in here with me today.
Thanks, Suzanne. It was great to talk to you.
Subscribe, like the video. I just want to make sure you guys don't miss out on any fabulous interviews.